Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. I'm Sigma and welcome back. Um, so today the plan was to continue painting new brains, but after sleeping on this one that we did, can't say that I'm a fan. So I spent the other day just looking around and seeing what other artists are doing with their paintings and um, how they define some of these nature type of scenes. And from what I can tell, the general principle is don't get too detailed. And what we did here yesterday, kind of crossing that line. But that's the important thing about growing as an artist is being willing to um, look at other people's works to try and learn something from them and apply what you learned. So instead of using this one, I'm going to go ahead and make a different frame to express the same concept. It will just be, again, in a garden setting, but I'm going to simplify things down quite a bit, change the subject matter a little, and see if we can't come up with something nicer. Alrighty, so let's get started here. Um, so I got a new layer on top of that, and get my white set up, and then switch over to my pencil brush. So one of the things that I had in my garden were hollyhocks. Oh, they're beautiful plants, and they remind me of my grandma. She loved hollyhocks, yeah, so that's what I think I'm gonna do. So for overall composition, I'm just gonna make them the center of the frame, but split it up again by our rule of thirds. Alrighty, so I'm gonna make another layer. Oh, I painted that on the white, so let's fix that. Okay, okay, that'll work. I'm just gonna lower the opacity a bit on this, make a new layer for the actual sketch. So, with my grandma, she always grew her hollyhocks in groups of three. So, I'm going to do that as well here and frame it like so. something like that. And then we don't want to just copy and paste this one essentially. Otherwise, it'll be a little boring, a little distracting. So maybe a shorter one here, and then two taller ones towards the back. And the general viewing angle. I'm gonna put this on my grid layer here. Something like this. Oh, something like this. Let's see. Um, okay. And then maybe some additional little tall plants that are not hollyhocks towards the middle. And of course, we'll have some smaller plants over here and here. That way we kind of frame this. So maybe daylilies. All right. Let's lower the opacity again. Let's see. I'm debating whether I should just go ahead and go straight into the color and then grayscale it later, or to just go straight grayscale. I think it might be a little more interesting in color for you guys watching the stream. So let's do that. Gonna make another layer down here. And this is just something I like to do for like a palette layer. Then just get my channel brush here. So there's our nice dark green. Then we want to lighten it up a little bit. Um, and a little bit more towards the yellow. There. Okay. And then for the colors, I had pink, white, and yellow. So the yellow is kind of a pastel, say around here. A little bit too depressing. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, for the pink, I see is right around here. That's nice. Darken it a little bit for the inner part. Gonna get a little darker part for this as well. And then the white-ish, or slightly on the pink spectrum. So it'll be like right around here. That is hard to see. Okay. Do we need any other colors while we're at it? Mm, I think that's pretty complete. All right. New layer and just start with blocking in the dark foliage. Mm, yeah. Let's go bigger. Oh, okay. Then we have some density over here. Not a whole lot over here. Okay. Let's see. Oh, we might need a little bit of brown for the plants towards the middle. Just a little bit more orangey. Okay. Give some center leaders here. And this area isn't going to be super defined um, because we're wanting to put the focus on the hollyhocks themselves. Okay, so let's get some smaller green stalks for the the daylilies. All right, so I'm gonna probably do the flowers last, um, as we can build up the green underneath, get a sense of the layout, and then build on top of it. So start off with some structural um, greenery. and take the heavier foliage off of it. So hollyhocks are a little bit like um, I would say maple leaves, but with the gaps filled in a little bit more. So something kind of like that. Then I'm gonna separate this out onto its own layer. That way we can use a neat thing. It's called copy and paste. And we have a center leading part right here where it would be coming off that branch. There we go. Okay. Then a slightly darker green. Okay. Gonna add a center point in there and erase away a little bit of that tail end. And scoop in a little bit. Okay, that's not looking too bad. Gonna shrink it a little bit. And then I believe is Shift Alt T or free transform. Guess not. What was it? Transform. Control Shift T. So the difference between the normal transform and the free transform is that the normal transform will try to maintain the same scale of your selection, whereas I'm just trying to alter the size a little bit, change the direction. So that's where the free transform comes in. can give it a little depth that way. Something like that. And combine the layers. Then I'm going to do it again. But I'm going to get both of them. Now I'm not going to do this the entire time. This is more just give me a sense of how the leaves will change and the color gradation would change as I alter the directions. And now I can um, extrapolate from that. So speed painting, go go. So if many of you didn't know, there's this really wonderful show, um, which isn't exactly safe for work. So I wouldn't recommend watching it, while you're working from home or whatever. But the second season of it came out just today, and I was spending a little bit of time watching it. It's a show called Love, Death, and Robots. Um, Essentially, what it is like a almost Black Mirror like series of episodes, and they're all distinct from each other, but many of them are like sci-fi or horror, or at least some kind of reference to a long future. And so, um, but yeah, I was watching the episodes of that, and it's interesting. There is only 8 episodes of it for this particular season, which I'm a little disappointed about. But um, the CGI is pretty great in these, and I would definitely recommend watching the first season just to look at all the different amazing art styles that there are. And like I said, a big part of becoming a good artist would be the willingness to go and look at different art styles, see what's out there. Um, and so there's some pretty great studios out there doing the work for Love Death Robots. And yeah, I really enjoyed the storytelling in the first season. Um, I would talk a little bit more about the studios themselves, but the names escape me right now, unfortunately. But out of the season one, I would have to say my favorite, um, even though the art style isn't something that I necessarily um, would incorporate into my own style. Um, is still a good story nonetheless, and that is Sima Blue. And the plot is interesting. It's about this dude who becomes obsessed about finding that perfect shade of blue, and it's like a robot or something. And so he's just um, going through all these major like events and whatnot as a renowned um, artist and doing all these crazy things like producing a giant monolith of that blue color on the surface of a planet. And it's just wild. Um, I really do enjoy um, just the level of creativity that goes into making something like that. So I am actually probably gonna take the initial color blocking off after I put some of these leaves in, just to um, cut down on the time, because there's a lot of cleanup work that would need to go into cleaning up the blocked in colors. That's a little outside of the normal process because you would refine the block colors, but I think that may have been a little excessive for this particular scenery. At the same time, I'm not fully sure that this is the way that I want to go. I'm gonna just take off the color here, see what that looks like. Hmm. Yeah. So, and that's just a natural part of the creative process. Sometimes you go for something and it just doesn't quite pan out. So that's all right. Let's instead of just thinking about, okay, we got to do this again. Let's think about something else, um, and then we can come back and visit it again later and see if um, we come up with a better idea. So I'm just gonna go and focus on the next frame, um, which was The fourth question: do we help others succeed with us? And this is a pretty good question. Just thinking about yourself in the context of the company you're there, and you shouldn't be focused just entirely on yourself, but how do you work well with the other people that surround you at work? Um, and so this is tying into my general philosophy when it comes to my software freelancing, and that is I want to empower my clients as much as possible so that they don't need to hire me again later unless they're adding something new. So I generally, oh, sorry, I generally try to avoid um, putting myself into a situation where maintenance would be required. And so I want to empower my clients to do whatever maintenance work that they would want to do for themselves. Um, and so this is just related to that idea of bringing others around you up, and people notice that, they appreciate that, and that'll get you further in life. Um, for example, some of the best managers are the ones who will go to bat for you and try to remove as many obstacles for the team as a whole, and do what they can to provide a good direction, so that way the team isn't just stuck with the same old work over and over again without any opportunity to grow for themselves. And so I'm just thinking about what I do also in my regular job, um, is again trying to infuse some of that spirit from the software engineering freelance, excuse me, from the freelancing, try to make it so that the employees that I would be supporting with this application can support themselves well. They feel empowered to do what they need to do. Um, but it also ties into office politics. You gain the reputation of being that person who really is a force for good and help others. You're more likely to be helped in return when you need it. For example, a while back we were trying to set up um, data feeds, and historically it's been difficult for us to get any information directly from the users because most of that communication is gated through like the project managers and whatnot. And so I didn't want that. And we we wanted some concrete, measurable way of saying yes, our design is helping improve the overall working process, the workflow. And so I had a wonderful relationship with the the team behind the UI framework. I would send them as much help as they needed. I would be extremely detailed with the request that I send over. Um, and just generally um, not put too much stress on them. And so when I asked them about getting some kind of access to data, they're like, yeah, sure, we'll get it for you. And they set me up with this whole endpoint that I can talk to at any time to get that data. That's just a game changer. So, a good phrase for this would be do unto others as you wish to be done unto you. So, that was said by Confucius. So, maybe that's what we'll do for this particular frame. And I'm just thinking what might be nice. Um, and of course, I gotta have a reference. Just not every day that I get to paint ancient philosophers. So something like this might work. All right, just gonna start out real simple. Pencil brush, outlines. Oh, gotta fill up the canvas first. All right, zoom out just a little. Rule of thirds. So I'm gonna put them like right around here. Mm, maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah, that'll do. And then put a center line for the head and go straight down. So he'll be kind of facing off towards this direction. And we would want his head to point up a little bit. So it's more like this. So once we have that, and then so I'm just starting off with real basic shapes, and then just attaching additional forms on top of that. So the center line for this sphere would be right around here. And then we have to attach the jaw, which is kind of like a triangle, trapezoid. I've spent ages with something like this. And the dude's got a pretty wicked beard, so we're not going to have to put too much definition there. Okay, and then his ears are pretty set far back in the statues, so that's a bit of a creative liberty, I suppose. This is where the eye line would be, so we would want to go a little bit above that and start the ear further back than usual. like the normal ear would probably come down here because that would be the rough center line of the sphere, but it's a little further set back. And dude's also got a bit of that, um, how do I say, Buddha like earlobes. So it's thicker on the bottom than usual. And drawing some of the defining lines there. All right. And they they paint him as a pretty blocky dude. So I'm gonna add some facial guidelines here as well. And then the cranium. Yep. All right. And then add a little bit of dimensionality to this bottom form here. So that's looking pretty decent. And then we gotta bring down the back side of the skull and the neck. Then bring out his shoulders. It's got pretty square shoulders and a pretty flat overall form. And he has his hands in a pretty interesting way for many of the photos that I see him in. So bring right around the center line a little off. And this center line, not this one right here. Um, so we'll take his sleeves and off screen them a bit. Then his other sleeve would be roughly down here. And it's a little further out than normal just because of the angle. So you would imagine it would terminate around here, but it's a little further out here. His hands are overlaid. And I'm a lucky sketcher when it comes to hands. And that's just something that everybody has to practice a bit with getting hands right. They are hard. All right. And he's wearing a robe which lines up pretty well with his beard. There we go. And it looks like he has the top part of his outfit. So we're going to draw that in as well. And that roughly matches up with the tip of where his spear would be. All right, he's got this funky hat on as well. And he's bald, but the beard is pretty substantial. So I'm just gonna block it out here. And the bottom of the sphere for most artists would be roughly where the nose would be. So I'm gonna give him a nose now. And he's got a pretty triangular nose, kind of like the sphinxes, and power brows. Power brows. So big that they're sticking out on the opposite side of the skull. And then get the eye sockets in. And the beard becomes, like the mustache becomes part of the beard at around this point. Got a bit of a goatee as well. Just a little wavy. The important thing to remember about beards, especially at an angle, is that you're gonna be seeing the termination of a mustache before you see the cheekbones. And so, in most cases, you won't see what's behind here. There'll be just a tiny bit of a lower cheek here. Alrighty. And then I want to leave myself a reminder in the sketch that there's a pattern, which does look like flowers. And I'm not entirely sure what this is, but this is the interesting element that we ought to include. This triangular section looks like it might have been a sword or staff or something. All right, just looking again, see if I feel like a captured enough of a spirit from this overall guester. And the gestures in general, you just want to capture the spirit, not like the perfect likeness of them. Otherwise, you're skipping steps. Alrighty, so we got that. Gonna lower the opacity and then just give some broad gradation for the background. Of course, round layer. A little denser towards the corner. And I'm gonna go ahead and break out the blender. All right. Gonna do is lightly dark gray for the initial blocking. A bit of a lighter gray for the top area. Then for his appearance. Alrighty. I'm gonna strengthen that up a little bit. gonna focus a bit on his hands here, and I'm gonna get rid of the grid lines. They're a little distracting. Make sure I get the right number of fingers. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The thumb is tucked away towards the back here. Alright, that's not too bad. Trying to get a decent representation of the different folds that are going on in this particular statue. Another one right here. Then there's one for the crease that's made by the elbow. But this should actually be a little bit lighter. There. Then again, another kind of fold where the elbow's coming in. And then when we're up in this area, we're on the upper part of the bicep. And so it's going to start leaning a little bit into where the shoulder is. So the fold will break a little bit differently. On this statue, it's a pretty straight shot down. And there's a slight under shadow where I don't know if it's intentional or if they just built the statue in two different pieces or restore part of it down the line. And darken it a little bit for that line technique that I was talking about in the previous stream. Okay, and these are kind of lining up here. And then there's a bit of a crease where, so there's a section of the neck and shoulders. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but there's a bit of a bump in between where your neck comes down and where the harder, bonier part of your shoulder begins. So there's going to be a minor fold around right where that starts when you're wearing a robe like his. Alrighty. There's going to be a bit of a shadow if the light is casting down this way. So I'll borrow this color right here and use it to make things a little easier for me since I don't have to draw in the flowers on that side. And this part is particularly bright in comparison to the rest of the statue. And a bit of a shadow coming from my hands. Okay. So is the bit of a flower pattern, but it's not very well defined here until it gets further down. We may as well just take care of a beard and the facial features because it's not going to be easy for us to define the details on this um, band until we turn off the sketch. And it's interesting that they chose to do like almost a croissant like texture with the eyebrows. Uh, if you were interested, croissants is actually one of my favorite pastries. Little bit of trivia. Alrighty, we've got a bit of the eye socket going on here. This section is considerably darker. And I'm just noticing now that I think I may have made his eye area over on this side a little bit too high by comparison. Like in a normal scenario, it would be just a little bit lower, not a whole lot lower. So I'm gonna take some off the top here. And then drop the side socket down a little. I'm not going to go into a great amount of detail with the eyes here, just enough to give the idea. And got a bit of a eyelid here. Otherwise, he's looking like super shocked, and that's definitely not the impression we want to give there. Then we got the lower lids. And we could probably stand to lighten that up a bit. Matched up with his tone low. That's better. Bit of a bright spot here with his nose. And then darken it slightly for the bridge. Alright, that's not too bad. Just quickly take the sketch layer off. It's not looking too bad. Let's get his hat in there. fill out his neck a little bit. All right, we have enough detail to go off of. So let's see here. I'm gonna take this and try and lower it even more. Alrighty. Get a little definition lines in there. Not going too overboard on the details here. Then provide some definition lines. Gonna add another layer here. That way I can get a little bit more of a complete feel to the head. Alright, that's good. A little bit of shadowing going on. gonna darken this towards the back. Alright, that's not too terrible for the time that we have. Just hoping to find the facial features a little bit. That's not too bad. Alright, I'm gonna wrap it up for today. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the weekend, and maybe I'll see you on Sunday.